Splyce could very well be jungle, or it could be Karma once again. Karma, very well-rounded support. We've seen a lot of priority on from every team. We know that Mikyx can play it, and there's nothing wrong. You know, it's a pretty much well-rounded support. You know, she fits into a bunch of different compositions. She provides a lot of utility, and she's just something safe that you can get away with. But okay, forget safe. Let's just
first pick Malzahar. Let's go.
In fairness, he is a pretty safe mid laner right now. There are very few matchups that he struggles in. He has a small window that you can punish him in, his 1 to 5, where he has a very long cooldown on his passive, and his pushing power isn't that strong. But after that, you can never deal with him outside. He's just constantly shoving you underneath your turret. And typically the best way to deal with him is to pick something that scales as well as him, and pretty much can farm as equally. I like Anivia. I think Anivia, it does a good job because she's a pretty big control mage that can split off. You know, Lissandra's another good one that can run into Malzahar because it's very easy to close the gap.
Right.
But, and we know that Lissandra is something that Ryu plays. We'll just have to see whether or not they decide to pick it. They can hold on to their mid laner for a long time. Something that we also saw from Malz yesterday, though, you and I from H2K, sorry, Pyra and I from H2K,
close enough,
was actually Malzahar in the top lane. So they have that flexibility too.
True. Can also be a flex pick. There's the Sivir and Karma picked up, but no Olaf. So what are you going to speed up?
So no, well, everyone, Pulse, funnily enough.
Everyone else.
Yeah. Really good at setting up for fights, speed up the rest of your team, enable you to close the gap. You can then use whatever tank, or you can use whoever you want to start the engage, or you can disengage, you know. We're scared, let's run really quickly. On the hunt quickly turns to, we're off from the hunt. But they also have a lot of wave clear, a lot of pushing power in the 2 versus 2. Very few duo lanes can really match that pushing power, and a lot of laners often like to avoid playing against that because you really can't match the fact that they are constantly shoving you under turret and setting up for potential dives.
Waiting on those next 2 pickups from Splyce here, and they will lock them in. Rek'Sai once again for the jungle of Trashy, and Shen also picked up as well. So can go into the top lane for Wunder, most likely going to go into the top lane.
So right now, Splyce setting themselves up for a comfortable 1-3-1 play. Very few people can deal with the Malzahar in a side lane, again, because of his powerful pushing potential. And on top of that, Shen, a very safe laner. Very few things that he's going to lose to. If H2K want to go for the Aurelia, then naturally you're kind of dissuading that because you're saying, hey, Shen naturally does really well into the Aurelia. Trundle would be the next best thing to pick up into the Shen because he does scale quite well. Another good pick right now would be the Gangplank because he is allowed to have basically a free lane. You can go Trinity Force into Ghostblade, and eventually you will get to a point where you start to outscale the Shen, and you can become this big threat, side lane pressure that the Shen may not be able to deal with kind of late game.
H2K lock in the Gragas for Jankos and lock in the Aurelia as well to go up against the Shen. Yeah, so maybe looking for a lane swap. I mean, the lane matchup's okay, but it's still good for Shen.
We've seen it quite a few times. Yeah, you and I even had a 1v1.
We did. Yes. I did end up losing that, but I won the level 2 real hard.
But yeah, we can talk more about the matchup once we're actually in the game. But typically, you should just know that in general, this goes in favor of Shen during the early levels, and he can mitigate a lot of that big Trinity Force power spike that she is so well known for.
Exactly. Last rotation in from Splyce, Lucian and Trundle coming out. So where's everything going to go? Shen top lane, Trundle support most likely.
Yep.
And yeah, Lucian for ADC, of course.
So right now, H2K have a pretty well-rounded comp in terms of teamfight damage, late game damage. Now they could go for something a little bit more towards the mid game. Something like, I do honestly think Lissandra would be a pretty good pick right now. It offers good follow-up from things like the Gragas flank. When you also have the Sivir paired up with that, it's so easy to set up dives. It's quite easy to also proc Malzahar's passive with your Q. I feel like Lissandra would be a great pick here. We also know that Ryu can play it very well. He picked it up a couple times very early on into the split. But it actually looks like right now that they are considering flexing the Karma down into the mid lane. And I told you yesterday, Pulse, how much I'm not a fan of Karma mid right now.
Well, it's also the build as well.
Yes,
you soak in all the gold, and then you go support items.
Yeah.
And don't do anything.
It was this great explanation where you said it's almost like you get an AD carry and you build it full tank. And it's just like, or It's like you have a mid laner and you go support. Like, why would you do that? Obviously, I understand the aspects of it, but it's not the same way in which people played Lulu in the past, where you'd go full AP and the AP would allow you to provide even stronger utility. Yeah. People that literally just going support on Karma in the mid means you lose a lot of damage, you use a lot of poke threat, and while, yes, you can provide very solid utility, I just feel like being this bigger threat where you just like go Morello into Deathcap, maybe even a Rylai's just to add a bit more utility, just to be obnoxious, is just much better for the team as a whole. I
mean, you're putting a lot of stock in like Sivir and Aurelia doing okay, at least. If they go both get crushed, then it's just like, well, who do I buff? I mean, I have no one to buff up now, and I don't deal that damage anymore. But that has been locked in, so we will see the Karma mid lane with Braum in the bottom lane. Haven't spoken about the Splice comp just yet, so how are you feeling, Vedius?
I actually, once again, really like the draft from Splice. I think that they have good 1-3-1 setup. There are very few options to deal with the Malzahar. In all honesty, Karma, sure, she can wave clear. During the early game especially, she has good pushing power. But I just think that they have so many options. They have really good team fighting. They have really good scaling. They have so many options, like a number of win conditions they can play towards. And I just think that, again, Splice have come out ahead in the draft.
We'll see if that is the case as we get into game, because the draft didn't win them the early game last time, did it? But
no.
It did win them the game in the end. But there are the team compositions once again, and our faces once again, as we have a pause to start this one off. So waiting for the teams to see what's wrong, and then we'll get that information to you as soon as possible.
So we can talk a little bit more about the draft, go into it with a bit more depth. So H2K, they have, again, with the Aurelia, a good spike once they hit the Trinity Force. Last game, they tried to capitalize on it. They ended up getting punished a lot because of the flanks from Wunder. He can do the same thing on a Shen, but he's not going to be as volatile.
I mean, he's not going to kill everyone.
Yes. Yeah, it's not quite going to be the same sort of buffet, you know? Meanwhile, the side of Splice, they have this just so much pushing power. So many winning lanes once again. But we can now talk more about that because we're going to be getting into game 2.
Yes, we can. As you can hear from the crowd, we are getting into the game now. Technical difficulties have been resolved, and H2K and Splice will be duking it out on Summoner's Rift for game 2. Here we go. H2K launching out of the base, looking to at least pick up one win here, because this did not start off well for them. Splice taking that game 1, despite the early game. Looking really good for H2K. We were literally praising them for everything they were doing. It's like, this was a good pick, this was a good play. 2 lost team fights, and GG.
So the difference is, this game, is H2K actually have the stronger 2 versus 2, because Braum does really well into melee supports, and Lucian will not be able to match the sort of wave clear that Sivir can put out, so you're going to get pushed under your turret a lot. And if they try to engage, then the Braum is going to mitigate a lot of the threat that Trundle provides, which is very little during the laning phase. So H2K do have the stronger bot. I would argue that Splice have the stronger 1 versus 1, but we said that game 1, and that didn't quite go as we had anticipated. And meanwhile, in the mid, it's pretty even. Once you pass the level 6 mark, Sencux will likely just straight up outpush Ryu. But 1-5, Ryu can actually outpush the Malzahar because she has very low cost spells, which mean that you can just constantly hit the minion wave, push it underneath the enemy turret, and Sencux has to burn a lot of mana, and the damage on the level 1 rank abilities is actually quite low. So it's pretty good for Karma early on, but it ends up being very much just a farm lane. So I would say this time it's not quite as one-sided as we saw before, where Splice had winning lanes in the majority of the matches.
Let's see what will happen in the early game. Mikyx is camping in the bush. He is a Trundle, so he's not the best at being as disruptive as, say, a Braum or a Bard, but he will track Jankos and Odoamne as they head out of the jungle. Won't even try and go for the Raptor camp. In the bottom lane, Wunder will be in this 1-on-2 against Freeze and Vander, basically getting nothing. And Mikyx will do a drive-by in mid lane.
So something that you will notice top lane is doing is, in the anticipation that a duo lane does a camp, say a Krugs or a Grom, you can actually just soak up a couple of extra minions to get a bit more XP, get a bit more farm, and then you can use your teleport once it hits the top lane turret to then join the other side of the map, and then you don't lose much from it because you're not trying to look to make a teleport play very early on into the game. So now you can see Wunder, he's just going to TP top, he's going to help his bottom lane shove out the way, but you can see now ever so slight CS advantage, but when in these lane swap scenarios, every little helps.
Every little does help, Vedius. And Ryu is getting the upper hand in the mid lane for now. He's pushing in the wave against Sencux. Sencux has missed basically every skill shot in the lane so far, which hasn't helped.
But this was something that we were talking about earlier. Malzahar has to burn a lot of his mana to deal with Ryu, who doesn't have to burn the same quantity of mana to achieve the same result. So when you have two doing the same thing, but one costs more than the other, then obviously the cheaper option tends to come out on top. But you also have the split push cam. Split push? That's not the word. The
lane swap cam.
Lane swap cam, that's the badger. And so both towers going down relatively even. No real tempo advantage for either side. Both AD carries going to get to lane at about the same point. And so far it looks like a pretty standard lane swap game as of yet.
Yeah. I really feel for Sencux there on the tower. It's just like the tower shot lands, and because all the minions are awkward health, you hit Call of the Void and panic, and it's just like, oh no, I can't believe I've done this, and then you just lose everything.
Also remember that his basic attack range has been reduced from 550 to 500, which means that it's even ever so slightly harder because you have to get closer to the minions to actually help clear them, and against the Karma, that's not what you want to be doing, because then it makes it so much easier to land the poke, which is why Sencux is struggling. And just general, as a mouse, it's actually really difficult to farm under turret, because the Malefic Vision just does ever so slightly more damage than you wanted it to.
Yeah, so
and
the
so
tower finishes it off, and it's like,
finishes it off. And so you don't really want to be using it. And in the past, the Voidlings were even more obnoxious because you'd use all your abilities to clear the wave, and then you try to get the last hits on it, so you hit the minion once, tower hits, then you hit it again. But then the Voidling's like, I'm helping! And then it would just kill the minion for you. Not quite as obnoxious now because of the changes to W, but can still be quite annoying when the Voidling's just trying to help the Master out.
TLDR, not great to be pushed under towers, Malzahar, in the early game.
And something that he's not typically used to, but
yeah.
Karma boys.
Karma boys. Lane swap still going on. The pushing is still happening, and we'll just see another tower swap. Both laners went to the opposite lane, so they'll take the next tower. But it does mean that Splice do have positioning over the first dragon, which will be a mount dragon. So that's a pretty nice prize. Mid lane, Sencux going to land the combo onto Ryu, but Ryu will do the same. Ryu coming a little bit out ahead there. The Voidlings are chasing him down, though, to even up the trade.
Notice that we've seen very little Cloud Drake since its buff.
Yeah, no real Cloud Drake Appreciation Day, unfortunately. Yep. We were doing a lot of testing on that one, Vedius. Yep. And now at rank 2, you get 50 movement speed. Before, if you got 3, that would be 45. Crazy. So, yeah, you're already getting more on your second Cloud Dragon. And you do move really fast.
Oh, Jankos hit level 6 very quickly.
Forced the flash from Wunder.
Yep. I mean, level 6 versus level 3, Wunder, even if you are a Shen, just the base stat difference that you get from being level 6 was enough to force them away from that turret. This is actually pretty big for H2K because now they will sit on the turret advantage. Splice were a little bit slow on the trigger because they had used their teleport early on, very early on, whereas Odo had saved it for later on. So when Freeze and Vander then returned to the top half of the map to then set up the push, that is when Odo joined into the top half, and so they had the 3 members strong much before Splice did. That resulted in Splice being behind in tempo, and they're not going to get themselves that turret, which is now going to result in an ever so slight gold deficit. So we'll have to see whether or not this affects them again. But a common trait that we're now starting to see from Splice is that their early game there are still things that they need to work on perhaps.
Yeah, I still can't tell if they're sandbagging the early game. It's just like, yeah, you have this early game, right? You know you're going to win the game. Nope, going to win this next team fight and the next one and the next one, and the game's going to end. It seems to be the strategy from Splice. Of course it isn't. Jankos is coming down for a gank. He doesn't have his ultimate, remember, he just used it. But he is looking for the body slam flash. Mikyx and Kobbe are both low level. Freeze is coming in here. There is the body slam onto Mikyx, but the TP in response from Splice going to be cancelled as Jankos backs away. But Jankos almost has his ultimate now.
But fortunately for Splice, they're able to push H2K off of the tower. But this does mean that now Wunder is going to lose his global pressure for a little while. As you rightly said, his ultimate's going to be up relatively soon. He's only 2 levels away from that. But H2K doing a good job of burning those summon spells. Jankos still hanging around the bottom half of the map. His ultimate has just come back up. And H2K, they know that Splice are in this bush. They could look to force it.
Vander's going to jump on top of Kobbe. They will get the concussive blows down. He'll dash away. Mikyx is still trading off against them. But here comes the Gragas.
Ooh.
Doesn't land the ultimate. Kobbe flashes away from it. But Mikyx is still under attack. Tower shot lands onto Jankos. He's being kited around. Flash comes down. Kobbe dropping low. Jankos looking to make up the kill. But it will be Vander to secure it.
Really good sidestep from Splice to avoid the barrel from Jankos, but he had bought enough time for the rest of his team to help out. Now Trashy on the other side of the map.
Odoamne will be taunted and knocked up from Trashy, a kill in return. Wunder will come in there for the assist. Ryu TPs into top lane, lands the Soul Flare, trying to draw the tower aggro. Sencux also roaming in here, and Ryu is cut off from the base. He's trying to pick up the kill, but not quite enough damage. And with the tower raining down hell on Trashy, almost picks up another kill, but not going to be quite enough. Ryu also drops the Splice.
Now they could look to take the turret before the TP gets in. The longer cast time.
4.5 seconds now.
Fantastic stuff from Splice. They get themselves 2 kills in the top lane. They get themselves the tier 2 to match what happened in the bot. And Splice responding to the aggression from H2K in kind. Very good play overall. Odo, he's not going to lose too much because he can soak up all this farm. But the fact that Splice have gotten this early kill lead, just showing that, hey, game 1 we were just warming up, game 2 we'll win now. Trying to roll the punches the H2K are throwing out.
I mean, that was such a good response as well. I've got to question the TPs coming out from H2K though. Ryu TPing in the middle of that, trying to pick up a kill, was very close to killing Wunder, to be fair, but still, that would have been like a 1-for-1
shield that he got.
And the tower shot almost picking up the kill onto Trashy as well, but alas, it was not to be. Odoamne also trying to TP into top lane, and then the tower's already dead, so we can see this one again, but Odoamne just getting caught in the CC.
Yep. Big minion wave. Trashy moved to the top half of the map. He knew there was no jungle support, so it was a clean dive. Ryu TP's in thinking he can pick up the minion wave or go for the play on the Wunder, but Sencux had already started moving up well in advance. The moment he saw that TP come out, he was already saying, I'm coming to help you guys out. Wunder is barely able to get out with his life. Trashy actually drew tower aggro so that Sencux could stay in the tower for longer, but look, Trashy, he's not done yet.
Wunder, Shadow Dash lands, knock up from Trashy, all over again. Sencux trying to get in range for an assist or the kill, but Ryu just walk back to his inner tower, so no kill for now, but it's going to push him out of lane unless Jankos comes in for the assist.
All 5 members of Splice posturing around the mid lane. Both teams contesting vision around this dragon. Man and Drake, always something you want to try and get your hands on because it helps your tower taking ability, as well as the risk of taking Baron at an obscene speed. You've already got a Malzahar who takes it quickly enough, but if you add a Man and Drake on top of that, that just adds insult to injury. So, a lot of emphasis being put on making sure that neither team gets it for free. And now things have started to slow down just a little bit. Teleport is up for Wunder. He is quite a lot behind in experience and farm because they weren't able to clear out that big minion wave that hit the turret, which means that Odo soaked it all up. 64 to 32. Could potentially hurt him later on, but because of the 2 assists that he was able to pick up, in terms of the gold, they're actually quite far apart.
It was like, I saw you check the goal and it was like, oh, 700 goal differential.
But it's okay, because mid is ahead for Splice and jungle is ahead as well, so
that's true. So currently 2-1 in terms of kills, but the extra tower is what is giving H2K the advantage over Splice currently in that gold. That was the bottom lane from Jankos, in fact. Take a look at these item builds here. Pretty standard across the board. Vander actually picking up the Ruby Sightstone now.
Interesting. We did hear from Crapo earlier on the desk how Alistair's right now had gone from Talisman, into the Ruby Sightstone. So you have a little bit, because it reduces the cooldown on your activatables. So the fact that Vander's gone for it early, as Ryu getting ganked.
Ryu, the staring contest from Sencux. Ryu doesn't want to be part of this contest. Oh, Trashy comes in as well, gets the assist. That's all he really wanted. Ryu goes down. Nice collapse from Splice.
Easy collapse. Very good gank from Mikyx. Throws the pillar down. The slow is good enough that Ryu, even with his shields, could not escape the range from Sencux. Throws down the ultimate, and then that's more than enough damage to get themselves the kill. So Ryu basically getting killed due to his lack of summoner spells and good punishment.
And that has evened up the goal totals without that tower in the bottom lane, which Kobbe's probably going to take in the next couple seconds with Mikyx and Trashy around the area. So this will give Splice actually the gold advantage now at just 12 minutes in. So a little bit of a reversal from the early game in the last game, where 4 of those kills were all over to H2K. Now Splice actually do have the advantage. And now pushing on the bottom lane. Not sure if they can go too much further. H2K are responding. Prey Seeker, just a warning shot. Ryu is going for the supporty build once again here, Vander. Supports.
I dislike it, but we'll have to see how it works out as the Dragon has been started off for Splyce, taking that down very quickly. Here comes the TP.
Many Voidlings on top of it. Trashy's kind of split out from the team now. Here comes the Stand United onto Mikyx, looking for the re-engage here. Wunder trying to get in range. Will knock up Mikyx. Sencux drops low, but everyone else from H2K is disintegrating as Wunder enters the fight. Trashy getting on top of them as well. Wunder is chasing down Ryu outside of the fight. He's being tethered and he will be snared. Jankos was the only casualty, but Vander running for dear life away from Trashy. Ryu's there to speed him up and give him a bit of healing as well. So he'll get back to safety.
The big question for Splyce now is, what objectives can they get off the back of that? Malzahar was left to pick up the Dragon. Wunder goes in.
He went very deep and will be punished for it underneath the tower, snared by Ryu. That was just a little too over-aggressive.
Oh, that was a big oopsie in the ninja department.
Yeah, take back the player of the game.
They want to keep going for the dive, and H2K have enough wave clear to force them back. So Splyce, they're going to end up trading 1-for-1 overall, going to pick up the Dragon, but I want you to keep your eyes on the Shen, because he's posturing, he's waiting, he's still pushing up the wave. He knows that a fight is about to break out. He doesn't immediately ultimate. He's waiting for a target. Mikyx is the one taking the damage, so he just instantly goes on to Mikyx, right? Sencux gets knocked into the team, and then a big taunt from Wunder enables Sencux to just get a multi-man Q off into the E, does so much damage. Kobbe isn't even touched on the back line, and that was just such good patience from Wunder, identifying when to join the fray and when to effectively use his abilities to gain the maximum output. He then screws up. He tries to get the same sort of taunt underneath the tower. He doesn't have a minion wave to back him up. There's also Ryu, who has a shield to just quickly dodge out of that one. Bit of a misplay as Sencux. Ooh, unlucky barrel there from Jankos.
Yeah, knocked away. It was very close to the epicenter, so it could have kind of gone one way or the other. Jankos instantly going to flash away. Trashy will not get on top of him for the knockup, and he'll body slam over the wall. So he's good for now. Ryu as well in this mid lane. But 3-0 in this game so far. Sencux has picked up so many of these kills from the setup there from Wunder. And again, Wunder having a pretty decent game. He really just understands when to flank, when to go for the engagers or TPs.
Yeah, I think he has good understanding of when and where he should be joining in these fights. And it's been very integral for Splyce's ability to often come out ahead. But Trashy now, perhaps getting a little bit too aggressive, but Mikyx has joined him.
Has Vander being chased down, but they don't really have a lot of damage there to help them out. What they do have is people around for the blue buff. Ryu steals it, went down to 1 HP,
yeah,
and I
saw that, yeah.
Something tagged it from Ryu.
So Jankos actually threw out the smite, and then Ryu threw out the Q just enough to get the kill. All planned from H2K.
Yes, of course.
Calculated. Great coordination between Jankos and Ryu. I mean, they have been playing together a while now. That sort of coordination is to be expected of them. But here we are, Paul. We're at the 16-minute mark right now.
We are. A lot's happened. A lot of trades back and forth. A lot of picks have happened. No big team fight just yet. Well, we did have one at Dragon.
Yeah, but it didn't result in any big...
A lot of kills. So we had a big fight, but not a lot of kills. Yeah, that's very true.
Something about H2K that we have to bear in mind is they have a lot of disengage. So even if Splyce force a fight, which their team composition isn't the best at doing, there are a number of ways that H2K can very swiftly avoid any serious engagement. But Trashy now, setting up for a flank onto Freeze. TP coming in as well.
Many TPs for Splyce, and Freeze is completely separated. He'll get taunted. Vander comes in to try and defend him. Glacial Fissure comes up. Freeze is already dead. Sencux keeps the ultimate, will land it onto Vander. He goes down for the second kill. 2-0, 2 fast kills to Splyce.
Smart use of the double teleport play. Wunder, he joined in with the Stand United onto Trashy, who punishes the overextended bottom lane of H2K. The top lane was already pushed underneath the turret for Odoamne, who did not have his teleport available just yet, and that resulted in a 3 versus 2 collapse. Sencux held on to his ultimate because he knew it wasn't needed to get the kill down onto Freeze, and now with with Freeze, one of the big wave clearers of H2K gone, Splyce are looking to take down this tier 1, but Ryu is actually going to be enough to deter Splyce from committing to that tower.
6-2. Gradually just picking up more kills, more objectives, more of everything. Top lane Odoamne trading off against Wunder, but Trashy is here for the gank, and even though the Equilibrium Strike has been used, or rather the ultimate, He'll flash away as Trashy tries to come in for the gank. He gets the Chilling Smite down, and the Taunt flash out from Wunder may be enough to secure this kill. It's going to be close. Wonderware survives. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Mikyx jumps onto 3 people. He has to try and get out. Vander right up in the face of Kobbe, blocking all of the cutting shots. Mikyx with the pillar, but again, he's separated. He didn't run the right way. Ryu will find that kill.
Sencux, good silence to try and deter H2K, but because Mikyx was separated from the rest of his team, he wasn't able to get to safety. They do end up trading 1-for-1 overall, and no objectives are going to be gained off the back of that. So Splyce do a good job of punishing the overextended Odoamne. Let's just have a look back at this play that happened earlier on that facilitated a lot of this aggression. So Freeze, good spell shield to block the initial knockup from Trashy, but without his flash, he was not going to be able to avoid the taunt from Wunder. The follow-up from Sencux and Kobbe and Mikyx unfortunately joined the party just a little bit too late. And then on the top side of the map, Trashy, he still had his ultimate. So the moment Wunder returned to lane and Odo was trading very aggressively onto him, with that Trinity Force that he's picked up, Trashy was able to back his top laner and they were able to net themselves a kill. But then H2K, they realized that 2 members stronger in the top half, Wunder was too low to join in with the Stand United, which was obviously still on cooldown after the play that happened bot lane, and so they then net themselves another kill in the mid. So both teams constantly trying to throw out punches, but typically it's Splyce that are the ones coming out ahead.
Splyce is the one who are actually landing the punches. H2K is kind of punching and missing most of the time. Did get that 1 kill mid lane though, but Core of the Void's already starting to hurt a lot from Sencux. H2K do have a couple item spikes across the board, Triforce of course, but as we get to the 20-minute mark and we head towards mid-game, what do you feel like H2K have to do right now to come back? Where does positioning need to be? Do you need to go for objectives?
So one of the big things that H2K have going for them is the fact that Freeze will be able to do a lot in these mid-game team fights, especially the late-game ones, because of how powerful she is with the 3 items. But might have to hold that thought as Jankos comes top with Odo.
Wunder is 1-on-2 here, but is doing a lot of damage to Odoamne. It's winning. Yeah, it may not be enough, but he jumps on top of Odoamne again. Jankos will body block him quite literally. Odoamne is just trying to lifesteal right now. Wunder, he's dancing around him. Equilibrium strike, and finally the kill. Unfortunately, Shen was not nimble enough to get on top of Aurelia, but he was doing a lot of damage.
Shen was very much going to win that 1-versus-1 if Odo did not have a minion wave to save him. He played very smart using his Q to create a gap, then hid behind Jankos to act as a body blocker. He then life-stealed off of the minions during the minion wave, came back, noticed that Wunder still had more health than him, and then he was able to land the stun with the Equilibrium Strike, and then pick up the kill along with Jankos. So overall, good play, but you're starting to see why, if the Aurelia doesn't get a massive snowball against the Shen, he is a big nuisance in the 1-versus-1.
Yeah, it really does do a surprising amount of damage, especially in prolonged trades as well, with first item being some 5k. Like, that damage really does add up.
Yeah, and I mean, the big thing about that trade is, for Aurelia, she has to hold on to her W until the Shen's W gets used. Yeah. Because obviously, all he wants, a lot of Aurelia's damage is from that true damage that comes to it, because it shreds through all this armor that he has. But what Wunder can do is just buy time, like, oh, you just used a W, well, I'm going to throw my W down, I'm going to wait for yours to disappear, and then once yours is gone, you now have no damage, I have tons of damage, and I'm now going to win this 1-versus-1. So there is a bit of skill element involved in the 1-versus-1, where there are small windows you can take advantage of, and that's why initially Wunder was able to come out ahead, because Odo went hyper-aggressive very early on. Wunder then just popped the W, but it didn't matter because Odo knew that Jankos was coming, and so they were able to get the 2-versus-1 and get themselves the kill.
Gonna have the 1v1, stay in the bottom lane. Odoamne, I think, knows his place now against Wunder, despite getting that kill there.
But he knows Jankos is top, so
he
he
does.
can afford to be a little bit more aggressive if he wants to.
Both the junglers having a turf war. Freeze and Vander also fighting over vision. And defensive pink wards. Trashy is kind of getting range. See if we can get a engage off or get some of this vision. Mikyx taking a lot of poke, but it's good for now. 22 minutes in, Odoamne trading up against Wunder, and it's a Spirit's Refuge. Odoamne getting chased down, and again, Shen is getting the upper hand. Shadow Dash into more auto attack. He's still chasing down Odoamne. He's definitely winning this trade. Wunder is just waiting for the Shadow Dash and the flash. He's trying to get in range to land the combo. Is he actually fast enough, though? That is the question. This is the running contest, but we have Mikyx coming in to support. Kobbe as well, the culling! Oh, a stylish kill for Kobbe. Was not expecting the Lucian to come in there. Trashy, there's the ultimate on top of him. Meanwhile, the TP as well out from Wunder. Shadow Dash, Flash, Mikyx also keeping Vander in place with the pillar. He is a dead man. A kill to Sencux.
We have a fight in the bottom. Instantly swaps over into the mid using the Stand United from Shen on top of the teleport from Sencux. Now with 2 members strong, Odo gone, Vander gone. A lot of damage still available on H2K, but Splice feel that they can go for the Baron.
Jankos is trying to contest. He's taking away some of these tunnels. Meanwhile, Ryu is trying to poke away, but these Voidlings are doing so much damage to the Baron. Shadow Dash once again onto Ryu. He'll have to flash away. Big Barrel will split up the fight, temporarily freeze, getting a lot of damage down with these ricochets. Wunder will drop to start this one off on Odoamne, looking to go to town, but nice exhaust in from Mikyx will keep him at bay. He'll have to back away. Have the Malefic Visions on top of him as well. And everyone so scarred from the battle will all back off.
H2K can be pretty happy with that play though, because they get the kill onto Wunder, they force Splice off the Baron, and they might even be able to pick up this tier 1 in the mid. Mikyx does still have a lot of health. The farm alarm does signal from Trashy to tell H2K, I am still relevant, I am still nearby. And that is going to deter H2K, so both teams just going to back off. Overall, if we take the full play that happened, that was a 2-for-1 in favor of Splice. They got the kill in the bottom lane down onto Odo. They got the kill in the mid lane onto Vander. And I mean, how crazy is it that you just instantly go from bot to mid in less than a minute, and you force plays all across the map? This is what's so powerful about the Stand United. But then we transition over to the Baron, and Splice, their intention was to try and get themselves a kill, but Ryu being so pseudo-tanky with her shield and still having flash up, he's able to kite back a lot. Freeze isn't really the target because he's low on mana trying to do damage. And then Jankos takes a lot of it, but because of his disengage potential, because he still had his ultimate up, there was no real way for Splice to hard commit. Sencux didn't have his ult, and other than that, there is no hard crowd control on the side of Splice, so it became very difficult for them. This was something that we highlighted earlier on, where if you don't have the Mals, if you don't land the multi-man taunt, it's actually very easy for H2K to just kite back and forth and disengage any fights that don't work out for them.
25 minutes, Splice with the advantage in this game, ever so slightly in terms of gold, but also that tower, and just generally in terms of map pressure. I mean, Splice literally in the jungle taking away buffs right now.
That annoys me, because
annoys you?
They had the sweeper, they could have used the sweeper to clear out the vision. That means the Jankos wouldn't have been able to see the red buff, and he wouldn't have been able to steal it away. And instead, they used the sweeper after he steals the Baron. But, Baron, red buff. But there we are, slight misplay.
Yeah, I actually thought that Kobbe picked it up because he had a red buff already, but no, Jankos did get the smite down.
Yep. Just a small pet peeve. Use your sweepers, because that also denies vision. You don't actually have to clear out the ward, you just throw the sweeper down, and that denies the vision of the ward. Yeah.
But that is not what Splice did, unfortunately. Trashy sitting in a ward's bush. Jankos will find him. He doesn't really do much damage against Rek'Sai right now. Freeze and Vander playing defensive in the mid lane. Vander split up, fantastic pillar in from Mikyx. That will be a kill. Trashy with the kill credit, and now mid tower is being sieged in. Good barrel from Jankos to clear out the minion wave, but unfortunately, Wunder's too tanky. He'll Shadow Dash on top of Jankos. Defensive or maybe aggressive ultimate from Freeze, trying to get on top of Trashy and Sencux here. Trashy will flash away, and now H2K out of combat range.
The big problem with H2K right now is they just don't have the damage to win a lot of these fights. And because many members of H2K kept getting picked off around the map, it's enabling Splice to just constantly move up with their vision line, constantly seek out where H2K on the map, and then just further get themselves more and more picks. Mikyx has been great with setting up these pillars to deny a lot of the escape routes that H2K are trying to use to disengage these fights. And that's enabling Sencux to then walk up through the ultimate down, and when you're being held in place for that long, it becomes easy for 4 members to get a kill. So they get the pick down onto Vander, they get themselves the tier 2 in the mid, and Splice looking very strong in this game once again. Bit of a slow game though.
Bit of a slow game. 15 kills, 26 minutes, 27 minutes now. H2K, last game they had the early game pretty much down to a T. Oh, I'm going to hold that for a second as Trashy finds Ryu in the bottom lane, gets the knock-up. Mikyx's here, so is Kobbe. Culling comes across. Pillar will slow down Ryu, and that's just another kill shut down for Kobbe there.
Clinical kill once again from Splice. The flank comes in from Trashy, and this was something that we were just discussing earlier on. So much pressure, so many picks, enabling them to extend their vision line, and then that just results in more picks for Splice.
Well, the point I was trying to make is that H2K generally having pretty decent early games. I'm not sure if I'm going to get the chance to talk here, Vedius, but H2K, what seems to be going wrong for them? Because is it just Splice winning out in these team fights? Is it just their competency in these fights, or is it something more? We may revisit that as Baron has been started off by Splice here. Jankos and Vander over the wall may have to come out for a potential steal. They do have the vision though, so that will make it a little easier. It is very much a vision battle right now. Baron down to half. Vander is still positioning. Freeze and Odoamne on the front lines. Mikyx is taking a brunt of this damage. Jankos taken off behind the pit, and it's secured by Trashy. Meanwhile, Odoamne will go down to Mikyx. He was trading blows. Kobbe will flash aggressively after Vander. Jump outside of tele range. Vander will jump onto Wunder, finally get the snare down, or get the taunt down. Get the stun down. I'll get the CC right eventually. Ryu is still kiting around the outside. Mikyx was keeping him in range with the pillar, chasing down with the culling. He's not gonna fall, but that was 2 kills and the Baron to Splice.
So many things going in favor of Splice this game. Now with 5 members strong, with the Shen still alive, he can TP to join the rest of his team, but I don't think it's even needed, because with the Baron empowered minions, Splice are going to net themselves the first inhibitor of this game. 29 minutes into this one, and such great execution coming out from Splice.
Yep.
They kept themselves to pick onto Ryu. They set themselves up for the Baron, and initially things looked pretty risky because remember that Ryu, he still had his teleport available. It was very easy for him to actually join the fray and look to contest this Baron along with the rest of his team. But initially, numbers advantage in favor of Splice. 10 seconds still left on the Karma. Splice have this window that they're trying to take advantage of, and with the Malzahar, it goes down pretty quickly. H2K go for the engage on the Mikyx. Jankos gets locked up, and meanwhile, another fight is happening on the bottom half of the map. Jankos isn't able to get himself the steal, and because of that, H2K immediately tried to disengage. Irelia ends up getting left on the backside to Kobbe. Good little sidestep from Kobbe to avoid the tether to continue his aggression, but they then can't follow it up with any further kills, but it doesn't matter to them because they just want to get themselves the inhibitor using the Baron that they've got. So overall, really good fight from Splice. They prioritize the targets that they need to guarantee themselves that objective, and now they've extended their gold lead significantly enough, and on top of a Cloud Drake, they should be able to just glide into the base of H2K and close this one out.
Do you think it is actually just a competency of Splice in these team fights? Because it generally does seem like they win most of the fights against most teams that we're seeing.
Honestly, it just feels like Splice, I don't know how their communication works, but it's very much like
telepathy.
They just seem to know exactly what they need to be doing. It's like, okay, in the Baron, Gragas is the biggest threat. Whoever can, focus down the Gragas. Meanwhile, I still want the Baron to be going on. And so they had Trashy on the Baron, Kobbe was helping him out, Mikyx on the side, and then you had Sencux and Wunder. Just such good target allocation, but the fight starts once more.
H2K going for the Hail Mary here. Wunder and Trashy immediately jumping on top of Jankos. Sencux is under attack, but the Spirit's Refuge will keep him alive. He's still not dead. Wunder with the ultimate is enough time, not quite there to keep him alive, but Odoamne is being chased down by the rest of the remaining Splice members. He cannot get away. 4 kills to Splice. Only Sencux goes down, and Kobbe is just in the base. Like a bull in a china house, he's just killing everything, and this may just be the game here, Vedius.
Splice, in commanding fashion, are looking to take this series in a 2-0, and I think they're going to get it, Pulse.
After another team fight, Splice finishing off this game against H2K, 17 kills to 6, and Splice will go 4-0 on the week.
Another great game from our top 2 team in Europe.